Anyway, good afternoon. And for the new people, I also want to say welcome. And I really hope that this journey is going to be worth your while. I know it has been for me. I've been with G4G. It's amazing. It's just under a year, but I feel like I've known Rita and Val and, Violet, all these ladies for the longest time because they've just become, sisters. Like Rita said, it's a sisterhood. And so welcome. And I hope that we'll all have, a fruitful journey together and it won't end here. So yeah, I'm just going to jump into it. As Val has already introduced me, I'm not even going to talk about what I do for a living at the moment, but I'll jump into it now. For me, all of us, we are all born complete. So creation doesn't start when you're born. By the time you're born, you are complete. There is nothing that you as a woman cannot do that a man can do. We are complete as women. Therefore, we don't have to defend ourselves nor our positions in this world. And until such time that we take responsibility for who we are and what we are about, and take responsibility, to protect ourselves from ourselves and stop undermining ourselves, we'll always be defeated before we even start the fight. This, for me, is about knowing that you are no lesser than a man. I grew up in a small village in Limpopo, the northern part of this country. We did not have water, running water, and electricity for most of my childhood. Both my parents were teachers, but I was very fortunate to have a mother like my mother. She was fearless. She knew that women are equal to the task, but she also understood that it takes discipline and mental strength for one to achieve their dreams. So my mother was my village. You'll hear about village when we, during this, when the program, the G4G program. My mother was my village. She pushed us, but she was so strict, my mother, that it was easier to do well at school than to come back home and answer to this woman. And it was not only at school where we were expected to perform or to do well. It was in everything. Be it cleaning the house, be it doing the garden, be, washing the dishes, you name it, it had to be done properly. At the time, I did not understand, but that was the discipline I needed for me to be able to achieve my dreams. You see, you have to go an extra mile for you to be different and to make a difference. There is no crowd when you go the extra mile. It gets lonely sometimes, but the results are worth it. And given where I come from, no one would have thought that a young girl from a village would become a commercial pilot or an airline pilot. And my mother passed on just before my 13th birthday. But she gave me the principles of life. To be independent of other people's opinions about myself. So what people had to say about my dream of becoming a pilot had no impact on me. When I was 13 years old, all I ever wanted to be was to be a pilot. I imagined myself flying that Boeing 747, And I don't know how many of you are doing science at the moment, but I like talking about Albert Einstein because he liked talking about imagination as well. And there's a few quotes on him about imagination. And one of them, he says that the true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. And that has been, my life. That's the truth about my life, imagining things. And when I was in grade 11, this was 1995, I met a man, an old man, Asnath Mahapa. We called him Bra Ike. Unfortunately, passed on last year, July. And he had come to our school to pick up his granddaughter at the time. And somehow he found out that there was a child with my surname at the school. And he sent his granddaughter to find me. We met, I greeted him, and he introduced himself. I found out that he knew my whole family, basically my mother's side and my father's side. Both my grandfathers, paternal and maternal, had taught him in school. You see, almost everybody in my family was a teacher, so chances of me becoming a teacher were more than 90%, to be honest. And immediately after these introductions, he asked me, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And without, even thinking twice, I said to him, I want to become a pilot. And this was for the first time since my mother's passing, I met someone who knew that human being was capable of achieving great things. You see, we are brought into this world to be great because we all have greatness within us. And I heard Rita mentioning that earlier on. We all have greatness within us. This man took me serious about this far-fetched dream because people did not think I could achieve this dream. And he took it upon himself to expose me to anything he thought was critical for me to know. He introduced me to relevant people. He told everyone we came across about this dream of mine of becoming a pilot. Now, this is a man who spent virtually all his life in exile. He was part of the people who fought for our freedom in this country. And it was his exposure to life that helped him help me. You see, now for me, this was the universe, working with me. The universe had sent this man to me. This is, my village was just getting bigger and bigger. And there's a saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You have got to be ready. This man played a pivotal role in my life. He encouraged me to become better. He did everything in his power to make sure that I achieved this dream. But he did all of that because I was also committed to achieving my dreams. The question one should ask themselves every day is am I interested in achieving my dreams, or am I committed in achieving my dreams? Because if you're only interested in achieving your dreams, then your excuses will become bigger than your why. Now, I believe I'm talking to, I don't know if it's all of you or some of the mentees, that you are all graduates. Val, am I correct? Graduating this year. So congratulations. And this,
sorry,
for me,
we have some who are not.
Oh, some who are not. Okay, that's fine. For those who are for those who are graduating, no, it's not a problem. For those who are graduating, congratulations. And this is a milestone, and it's not just for those who are graduating. The fact that you joined G4, this is a milestone in your life. And the ones especially who are graduating, this is now a critical time for you to surround yourself with the right people. You cannot go out there without that village of people who will be supporting you. There is no better time than now for you to start building your village. You need to identify people you want in your village, And yes, sometimes you have to approach them. You can't just sit back and expect people to come to you. You have to approach them. But when you're building that village, there is one thing that I find is very important, is that you must always be authentic. You need to remain genuine. That way, people are more likely to trust you. If you're not authentic, trust is threatened and people will not be attracted to you. And obviously, to become successful in life, there are certain steps that you need to take besides building your village. The village you'll always need, I did not have mentors when when I joined SAA. I did not have mentors when I started who were within the field, this field that I'm in, the aviation space. So besides building your village, whether it's people within your field, your career or not, there are certain steps that you need to do and certain things that you need to do for you to be able to succeed. You know, remembering that these people in your village can walk this road called life with you, but they cannot walk it for you. You see, they are there to advise, they are there to support, but it is up to you to make an effort in order to succeed in your life. And I've developed a list, you know, it's over time, it's a short list, but I always try to change things that are not working. And I'm just going to share what I do, you know. And here's the list of the things that I do for me to just remain where I am and to keep growing. And I think for you to succeed, you must also have something that, you know, as a backup, you know, you need to always write things down. Then it's so important to write things down, you know, having, you know, because if you don't write things down, then there's no order of how you want to do certain things. There's no order of how you want to achieve things. So my list, first of all, as a woman, is self-value. You know, where there are societal issues, self-value is almost always the cause. You need to value yourself as a woman. This means that you must want more for yourself, wanting a better life. You must make an effort to get out there and make your dreams a reality. That's the first one. That I think for me, that is the most important one. And the second one, once you get there, once you feel, you know, sometimes when we achieve goals, when we get to certain stages of our lives, we forget where we came from. So number two for me, stay humble. You know, I read a lot of books written by a man called Wayne Dyer. And there's somewhere where he says, I am humbled in my inability to know where any of my accomplishments come from. It's very important to remain humble. The third one, know what you want. Identify your gift, know what you want. When you know what you want, it helps you in giving you direction to knowing what to do. Because if you don't know what you want, then you don't have steps. You don't know what steps to take, you know, to achieve your dreams. The fourth one, believe in yourself. Believe in your ability to achieve your dreams. There's no, you know, I know it's, for me, I said the first one, the second one, but they're all important. And the fifth one, don't be afraid of failure. Understand and know that you are going to make mistakes. You are going to fail at some stage. It is called life. The one thing to keep in mind is that 10% is what happens to you, and 90% is what you do with what happens to you. You know, when you have big dreams, so those are my 5 things that I've written them down, and I try to live by them. So when you have goals, when you have dreams, always remember, you know, I listen to Pastor T.D. Jakes sometimes, and he says, your attitude determines your altitude. Your attitude determines your altitude. He says, you cannot fly like an eagle, and you cannot fly like an eagle if you're conditioned to think like a chicken. So this is what I hope G4G is going to be for you. Where, I mean, I've been listening to these incredible women when they were introducing themselves. We have incredible women in this group, you know. All of us are incredible and all of us are great. So let's start thinking like eagles, you know. Let's get out of this mentality that someone must come and do things for me, you know. People can only help you when they see that you are determined to do something about it, you know. I had to be mentally strong to get to where I am. You need to understand that. I changed the status quo in a lot of ways. I was not one of the examples. a woman my height could not get into the Air Force. And I fought to change the rules. They changed policies because I did not give up. I just kept on fighting. So women who are shorter than me today can enter the Air Force and actually fly as pilots in the Air Force. So I changed the status quo. I was crazy. People told me in my face that I was crazy. And I know that some of you, the young ladies who are sitting here, you know what I'm talking about. People are calling you crazy, but you mustn't care about what people call you. There's a quote. It's a long quote by Rob. I have to read this one. Rob Siltanen. Quote. He says, "Here is to the crazy, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They are not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the one thing you cannot do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius, because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do," unquote. Ladies, we have got to champion our lives. Make sure that the world does not ignore you. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Asnath. Wow, so many wise words there. I was trying to make notes, but then I was just running out of not listening.
You can share them later, it's fine.
Beautiful words. I would like to ask and open to the floor, ladies. Who would like to ask any questions? Does anyone have any questions? It'd be so wonderful to hear some of the voices of the mentees, please.
Yep.
Now is your chance.
Before you, someone has already asked a question in the chat box. They wanted to know who the quote is from. Huh?
Which code?
I think
the last one.
The last one.
Yeah, I know that's what I am. Troublemakers, that one.
Wait, I'm trying to get to the chat so I can write. Okay, but it's Rob Siltanen. It's is it possible for me to write? Okay, here we go. I'm just going to write the name of the guy.
Come, ladies. One of the things Asnath said, you have to reach out. So feel free to ask your questions. Put your hand up. If you can. I can't teach you because I'm the host, so I can't tell where the hands up is. But if someone can give me.
Go to
reactions.
And then you click on the option no. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone for some questions, ladies? It's not every day you get an opportunity to ask questions of such an amazing speaker. I want to see who the bravest of all the mentees is. There's got to be one lady who's going to step up and show her courageous side right now.
Terry-Ann has her hand up. Terry-Ann, go for it. Unmute yourself, and then after Terry-Ann will be Mikenzo.
Yes.
Hello everybody. I'm Terry-Ann. I'm very welcome to be in this Girls for Girls group. I'd like to know more and explore more in this Girls for Girls group. I appreciate y'all doing so much for us young women, just empowering us to become better and show ourselves better in this world. Question I have today is, how do we know that we fully ready for this, big crazy world? How do we know that we're going to be able to be a great leader and see other women become greater? Just sometimes when you're out here, you don't know what to do. It's just very scary. You're just in this black hole and you don't know if you're going to actually be able to be a better person.
Can I answer?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
That's the reason we have G4G. Because this is where you're going to meet women who are, I don't want to say powerful, but women who are confident, women who have accomplished a whole lot of things in their lives, women who are successful. And these are women who are going to hold you by your hand and direct you. So I like the fact that you're asking questions. The more you ask questions, the more we get to know and understand what it is that you need. But believe you me, by the fourth session, you'll be more confident, and I'm hoping that you'll have more direction. So for me, I don't know if I've answered this correctly, Rita, but for me, G4G is, this is why you're here. To get, to get direction and to get help in anything that you need. And that's why Rita said to you earlier on that, please, you must not be shy. Please come forward, just speak up. No one is going to judge you here. There is nobody who's here to judge anybody. Did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Are you happy?
thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Enzo, go ahead.
Hi guys. So what I wanted to ask Asnath is, one of your points were do not be afraid of failure, right? So I want to know, like, in your journey to becoming a pilot, did you ever fail? And if you did, how did you get yourself back up? Like, what motivated you to keep trying and to be where you are right now? Thank you.
You see, I believe that in the world, a lot of people don't give up because they're stupid or they're incapable of doing certain things. People give up because they don't have the love for what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't love what you do, when challenges come up, you will definitely give up. Look, I won't say I failed, but because I became the first one, I met challenges where I was told that I could not actually fly. I did not have the skill. And this is after I completed my commercial pilot's license. So I lost my job because someone came around and said that I could not fly. So I did not have a job for almost a year because of that. But I knew that all I wanted to do was to be a pilot. And if other people, I mean, if we were saying that there's only 100 pilots in the world, maybe yes, maybe I didn't have the skill. But if we're talking thousands and thousands of people around the world flying aeroplanes, what was different about me? So for me, the key thing is to have the love for what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, it becomes very difficult for you to succeed. You don't want to wake up every morning and Monday to Friday it's a hassle for you to go to work. Someone, I think it was Les Brown, saying that you don't want to get to work and you want to do a drive-by, instead of going into your job. You don't want that. So you must, what you're doing now, that's why I was saying that you need to identify your gift. You need to know what it is that you want to do and do that. So for me, the love for what you do, the passion for what you do is key to succeeding.
Next, we have a question in the chat from Nikita. Okay. Nikita asks, what made you want to be a pilot?
Oh, it's a funny story. I was visiting my aunt in Midrand. I came from the villages. So during school holidays, after my mother passed on, would visit my aunt here in Midrand. And the one evening I had her talking to her husband about this neighbor of theirs who was a pilot. Now, where I came from, we hardly watched TV, we could watch TV when the generator was working. So a little girl from a village, I only saw aeroplanes from 35,000 feet, most of the time you saw contrails. That's how you knew that, an aircraft passed by. It just never registered that pilots were people that I could come across, someone I could call my aunt's neighbor, someone who could be 100 feet from me or something like that. I always thought that there were elite people who lived not where we lived. And when I found out that this man was a normal human being, I thought, just if another human being can do this, then it means I can do it. And that's when I decided I'm going to become a pilot. And that's how I became a pilot. And I tried it at the age of 18. I loved it, and that was it. I fell in love with it. that's how I decided to become a pilot.
Fortunate asks, how does it feel to have been a pilot in an industry which is said to be for men? I think you touched on this earlier, but maybe just give a little bit more context.
Look, it's the unfortunate part, and fortunate I think, depending on which career you choose, all these industries that were formerly, supposed to be male, which are still male dominated at the moment, it's still difficult for us as women. Unfortunately, you must work 10 times harder. You can't be, because you're not one of the boys, you must work 10 times harder. And for me, that's the reason why organizations like G4G, the number needs to increase, because you find yourself alone, you're stressed out most of the time. And when things go wrong, you don't know whom to talk to. So it's a difficult one. It's not easy. I cannot afford to slip up, because if I slip up, then yeah, that girl slipped up. I'll give you an example. We have a woman captain at SAA, and she made a mistake in Cape Town a couple of years ago, about 12 years ago. After landing, she takes it, and it was the 340-600. I mean, it's the longest aeroplane I've flown. That is the longest aeroplane in the world, passenger aeroplane in the world, literally. So for you to maneuver that aircraft, you need to be careful on the ground, even in the air, because it's that heavy. And she takes it over the taxi lights in Cape Town. And to date, it's still the talk of the town that she takes it over the lights. Men have gone off the runway after landing. Men have gone off the runway on takeoff. But to them, so and so went off the runway. And it ends there. But she takes it on a taxi light. I mean, it's nothing in comparison to somebody who actually goes off the runway while taking off. That's very dangerous. So the unfortunate part is that as women, when we make mistakes, everyone will they'll put a microscope into this mistake, forgetting what other men are doing. So it is very important for us to support one another. I must be able to call Val and say, you know what, I had a bad day today. It doesn't matter whether she's in my industry or not, but I must be able to say, oh, my sister, I had a terrible day because 1, 2, 3, 4 happened, because this is where we are. But the more we grow, the more our number grows, I think the better the things will be at some stage.
Asnath, we've got time for 2 more questions. We've got 2 more minutes. I think someone's had their hand up for a while. Was it Kensani? Did you have a question? Kensani?
I see there's also a question from Reabetsui.
Yes.
Okay.
You mentioned that being mentally strong is very important. Have you always been mentally strong, and what advice would you give to someone who isn't?
Yeah, I think I've always been mentally strong. The man I was talking about, he used to say to me that I should have been a boy. I've always been mentally strong. I've never been a person to give up unless really I'm forced to, there is no other way. But, it's not about being mentally strong more than being prepared for me. As I mentioned earlier, as women, we need to work 10 times harder, unfortunately, to achieve our goals. So if you want to achieve anything that is, is unheard of for women to do, you need to prepare yourself. You need to know your story. So when you walk into a boardroom as a woman, you cannot walk into a boardroom not prepared. So it's not more about being mentally strong. It's more about you preparing yourself, knowing your story, knowing your subject. So that and that on its own will help you, because if you're not a fighter, if you feel like you're not a fighter yourself, the next best thing to do is to make sure that you know your story. Because when you know your story, it becomes difficult for whoever it is. If there are men who don't actually like you in that space, it becomes difficult for them to challenge you if you know what you're talking about. So again, it goes back to you need to work harder. You need to know your story. You need to understand what's your subject so that you never get yourself into a position whereby you are questioned because you were not prepared. I think that's how best I can answer your question.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Alice, apparently you want to ask a question. Alice? Did you have a question, Alice?
Please remember to unmute yourself, Alice.
There we go.
I'm sorry, that must have been a mistake. I didn't have my hand up. Probably touched it by mistake.
No problem.
No problem.
Okay, I'm going to take one more chat. There was a question from Zanab about what is your coping mechanism. Let me just see. Sorry, let me just find it quickly. Please share your coping mechanisms when you face challenges. What do you do to cope, Asnath?
I meditate. I've since learned to meditate. It's a lot of people don't do it, and I cannot tell you how powerful meditation is. I meditate. I do the affirmations, the I am affirmations. I don't know if people know about those. So I use meditation a lot. I meditate a lot. I pray a lot, and I find meditation just calms me down. It doesn't matter the situation. If I meditate, if it's during the day and I take deep breaths a certain amount of times, that's what calms me. I find meditation works. It's something that I would encourage anyone to try it. If you start your day with meditation, your day goes smoother than other days. It may be bumpy, but you are able to cope when you meditate. I found that meditation for me is what works for me. Yeah.
Asnath, thank you so much for your time. I think we could be speaking to you all afternoon. I really appreciate it. We have to move on to the next things.
Thank you.
Ladies, just so that you know, Asnath is also one of the directors of G4G. So she's very strongly involved in the organization. And should you ever need it, she's not far away. Should you need to answer any more questions, or you can just ask, and I'm sure we can get some answers back to you. But thank you so much for your time today. And ladies, let's give her a round of applause.